In a windswept coastal village, cradled by jagged cliffs and lapped by restless waves, there lived an old man called the Lantern Keeper. His hair was as white as the foam that danced on the sea, his face carved with deep lines from decades of sun, salt, and storms. Yet his eyes gleamed with a quiet, unshakable joy, like stars piercing a cloudy night. The villagers cherished him, for he tended the ancient lighthouse that stood sentinel on the cliff's edge, its beam guiding their fishing boats safely through treacherous waters. Despite his years and solitary life in a weathered cottage beside the lighthouse, the Lantern Keeper never seemed burdened by loneliness. Each dawn, he'd sit on a driftwood bench, nodding warmly to every soul who passed, his presence as comforting as the lighthouse's steady glow. The village pulsed with the rhythms of the sea. Fishermen hauled nets at dawn, their hands rough from rope and brine. Women wove baskets or sold shimmering fish in the bustling market, while children darted through sandy lanes, chasing gulls. But life was unpredictable, often cruel. Storms could shatter boats against the rocks, leaving families hungry. Fever swept through the village some winters, stealing strength from the young and old alike. Nets tore, catches dwindled, and worry clung to the villagers like damp mist. Yet the Lantern Keeper's smile never faltered, a beacon of calm amidst the chaos, as he climbed the spiral stairs each evening to light the lamp that pierced the dark. One stormy afternoon, when the sky churned grey and the wind howled like a wounded beast, a young fisherman named Arjun trudged up the cliff path to the lighthouse. His clothes were soaked, his face pale with despair, and his dark eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Keeper," he said, voice trembling like the waves below. "My boat was smashed in the storm. My nets are gone, my savings spent on repairs that failed. I've nothing left. How will I feed my wife and little ones? What if we lose our home?" The old man studied Arjun, his gaze soft but steady, and gestured to the driftwood bench under the lighthouse's shadow. "Sit, lad," he said, his voice warm as a hearth fire. "Tell me, what do you see in the days ahead?" Arjun clutched his tattered cap, twisting it in his calloused hands. "Nothing but ruin," he whispered. "No boat, no fish, no coin to buy bread. What if my children go hungry? What if my wife looks at me with shame, knowing I've failed them?" The Lantern Keeper listened, his weathered hands folded, the wind tugging at his grey cloak. He shook his head gently. "Arjun, when we let dark thoughts flood our minds, our hearts sink like stones in the deep. But when we seek the light, however faint, our spirits rise, and paths we couldn't see before begin to shimmer." Arjun's brow creased, salt drying in streaks on his cheeks. "Light. What light is there when my world is crumbling?" The Lantern Keeper's eyes crinkled with a smile, as if he'd heard the question 100 times. "Let me tell you a story," he began, his voice weaving through the storm's roar. "Long ago, a sailor was shipwrecked on a barren rock, far from any shore. He had no food, no shelter, only the endless sea mocking his cries. He sat there, weeping, certain death was near. One day, a gull swooped low and dropped a fish at his feet. Startled, he looked up and saw the stars twinkling above, the waves carrying driftwood to the rock, the sun warming his skin. An old wanderer's tale came to him. Look for what you have, not what you lack. So he stopped cursing the storm. He saw the fish as food, the driftwood as a raft, the stars as a guide. With his hands he built a way home, not by magic, but by seeing the light in what was there. In time, he sailed back to his village, stronger, wiser, and alive. The Lantern Keeper leaned closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. That sailor's life didn't change because the sea grew calm. It changed because he shifted his gaze from despair to possibility. When we focus on what we have, however small, we find the strength to keep going." Arjun's eyes flickered with doubt, but he leaned forward, hanging on the old man's words. "But keeper," he said, "will thinking differently mend my boat or fill my nets? Will it keep my family warm?" The lantern keeper nodded, his smile unwavering. "It won't rebuild your boat overnight, lad, but it will clear the fog in your mind. Tell yourself each morning, 'Today, I'll take one step forward.' You'll find the courage to act, and the sea has a way of rewarding those who don't give up." Arjun sat silent, the storm's roar softening as he pondered. Finally, he took a deep breath, the salt air filling his lungs. "I'll try, keeper," he said, voice steadier. "I'll try to find the light." The old man clapped his shoulder, his hand firm despite its age. "That's the first spark, lad. Let it grow." From that day, Arjun rose each morning with a new ritual. Standing by the shore, he whispered, "Today, I'll take one step." He borrowed an old net from a neighbor, fished from the rocky shore, and bartered his small catches for bread and twine. He mended what he could, worked odd jobs in the market, and shared stories with his children to keep their spirits high. Weeks later, a merchant, struck by Arjun's quiet determination, offered him a sturdy boat, second-hand but seaworthy. Arjun's heart soared. He ran to the lighthouse, his face alight with gratitude, and told the keeper the news. The old man's eyes twinkled. "You found the light, lad. It was always there, waiting for you to see it." Word of the lantern keeper's wisdom rippled through the village like waves on a calm tide. Fishermen shared their spare nets, weavers mended torn sails, and mothers taught their children to look for small blessings: a warm meal, a kind word, a sunny day. When storms came, the villagers sought the keeper's counsel, and he offered the same advice. "Seek the light, and strength will follow." Slowly the village transformed. Neighbors became a family, hardships became challenges to face together, and the lighthouse's beam seemed to shine brighter, a symbol of their shared hope.